Abarera Legos Ram Ori Banish C10 Demonio Dinaja 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 Abarera Legos
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Satan and Coffee. Hail Satan, hail Lilith, hail Lucifer, hail Paimon, hail Baphomet, hail thyself. We reject the Trinity, we reject the baptism of John, we reject the baptism of the Spirit. Welcome, everyone. Hope everyone is having a great weekend. I hope everyone is ready for today. How is everybody? It's good to see everybody. Evie, welcome. Good to see you. Yes. Hail thyself. 100%. It's good to see you. Good to see you. So, I'm excited. This is, I believe, 2, 3, 4. This is the 4th consecutive episode that we've done of Satan and Coffee. Hope you've all got your coffee. I've got mine. Seems the Magus mug is becoming very popular. I need to get one for myself. Rami, welcome, welcome. Good to see you. Good to see you. So, what we've been doing as of late is we've been going through the Book of Satan, and we finished off the first part and kind of getting into the second part here of the Book of Satan. I believe there's only 5 parts to the Book of Satan. So we're just kind of going through, and I'm providing interpretation to the things that we're reading here. So we're going to be going into part 2 of the Book of Satan here today. So let's just get right into it, shall we? Behold the crucifix. What does it symbolize? Pallid incompetence hanging on a tree. So one of the things that's interesting about the crucifix, in my opinion, is in a religion where one should only worship the one true God, being their God. I kind of look like a zombie, don't I? I'm looking at the camera here. I'm just like, I feel like I look like a zombie. A little less, like, need more blood and ripped open parts, but I kind of look like a zombie. Anyway, with the crucifix, they're worshiping a dead man hanging on a tree, essentially. That is the symbol of the Christians. And the funny thing is the crucifix is nothing more than a shorthand for the pagan wheel of the year. You know, especially when you see, like, it has, like, you know, the little circle around it and things like that. It's nothing more than, you know, the shorthand for the pagan wheel of the year. It's amazing to me that a religion that has stolen so much from, you know, Christianity. Good morning, Unexplained Possibilities. How's it going, my friend? Good to see you. Thank you for stopping by. For a religion that has stolen so much from paganism, you know, to have so much hate towards the pagan, towards the heathen. And it is hate, right? A religion that teaches love, or supposedly teaches love and acceptance, in action practices so much hate. And, you know, as, you know, people of the left-hand path, as occultists, you know, we just want to be left alone, right? And leave people alone and let them do their own thing and let us do our own thing. But they're the ones that are always in everyone's face, trying to tell them, you know, that they're going to burn in hell, that they're going to, you know, suffer anguish for not believing in their God. You know, it's guilt and threats and fear. You know, it's quite sad to see. I question all things as I stand before the festering and varnished facades of your haughtiest moral dogmas. I write thereon in letters of blazing scorn, lo and behold, all this fraud. And truly, when we begin to dig and we begin to look deeper and deeper, see, if Baphomet is Muhammad, how do you work with him and yet he is the prophet of Islam? So here's the thing. So the earliest recordings of the word Baphomet was a linguistic misunderstanding with the Knights Templar with Muhammad. However, there was no relation made to Muhammad in that moment. All entities work as they see fit. They present themselves as they see fit. They are created through the idea and being known how they want to be created, how they want to be known. So the earliest recordings of the word or the name Baphomet is perceived or to be understood as a linguistic misunderstanding of the Prophet Muhammad. However, Baphomet has grown far beyond what is the perceived linguistic misunderstanding of Muhammad. You see, when you work with an entity, the name is merely a phone number, right? There are many phone numbers, and many of those phone numbers reach you to the same person. It's to say that if you were to change your phone number and somebody were to call the new number, they're not calling a new person. They're still calling you. It's just a different name that's being used. And the name for us is a phone number, a way of communication. Baphomet, prior to the thousands, I guess you could say, right? Because it's like 1076 or 1067 or something like that, when, you know, the Knights Templar were accused of, you know, working with a demon known as Baphomet. There are many other demonic entities that fit within the scope of what Baphomet is without being called Baphomet. Many of those names have been lost throughout the centuries. However, again, Baphomet is simply a name that is used for understanding to communicate with the entity. So no, I am not working with the Prophet of Islam. And that is merely one ideation that we have on record of where the name was first used. And it is assumed that it's a linguistic misunderstanding, though there is no concrete evidence to say that that is the end-all, say-all situation. But historically speaking, it is assumed that the word and the name Baphomet was a misunderstanding for the name Muhammad. Hopefully that answers your question. So again, book 2, line 2, the end line here being, lo and behold, all this is fraud. And this is a very true statement when it comes and we look at, you know, Christianity, and we look at Christians. And hello, Aaron, welcome. It's good to see you. Because almost everything inside of Christianity, no, you're very welcome. You're very welcome. And trust me, that is a question that many people ask. And I have pondered greatly, right? Because obviously, right, the ideal, right, or the idea that is out there is that Baphomet isn't an actual entity, but rather a representation. But if something was purely a linguistic misunderstanding, then, you know, it couldn't have possibly grown into what it has grown into, correct? I mean, you know, the sigil of Baphomet and the usage of Baphomet through and through all, you know, all Christianity and known religion. So, you know, grant you, I mean, a lot of like the imagery that we used for Baphomet was, you know, created by Levi. Even, you know, the version that, that crazy magician guy, I can't remember his name, Crowley. Even the one Crowley used, right, was created by Levi. But something that wasn't supposed to take hold, that wasn't supposed to be held onto, that was purely a linguistic misunderstanding, would have been accepted as a linguistic understanding and ended there. And misunderstanding, sorry. And it would have ended there. And it didn't. It kept growing. And there's a reason for that growth. And I believe that all entities present themselves as they want to be seen, as they want to be known. And then from that, it's our responsibility to try to create that connection, and to grow from there. So Baphomet was never supposed to be kind of like the pinnacle ideal of, you know, Satanism, or like the Church of Satan, rather, you know, as an atheistic ideal, rather than nothing more than, you know, a representation, you know, or a symbol. So in that sense, and in that logic, the idea that of what, Baphomet was trying to do is kind of like lost in translation. And that's because of Christianity using that image consistently and constantly. Do excuse the music in the background. We're going to mute here for a moment. Very obnoxious. Every Sunday without fail, at different times, like a group of people pass down, like walk down the street, playing a trumpet and a single snare drum, in the hopes that people will come out and pay them money for playing the music. And it gets really, really loud. So I do apologize for that pause, but I had to pause. Otherwise, the louder I would speak, the more the mic would open and the more you'd be able to hear that. And that would just not good, not conducive, right? Baphomet is well, I mean, Baphomet, I'm not familiar of any connection Baphomet has with Greek mythology. And again, I try to avoid using the term mythology, because mythology, though being the correct term, I suppose, if you notice, when it comes to the occult, everything's mythology. And for some reason, there is this unwritten bias where Christianity is accepted as whole truth, because nobody says the Christian mythology, right? Or the Catholic mythology, or the Protestant mythology, right? You know, nobody says that, right? Because it's generally and overall accepted as truth, right? I would have to ask him. I've not read a lot of Michael's stuff, or I mean, I've watched a few of his videos here and there. We've had him on the show on Apocrypha. So I mean, I would have to reach out to him and ask him just for clarification. But I personally can't comment on that because I'm unaware of, you know, that aspect of things. But it would definitely be a conversation worth having, right? Because that does seem interesting. So, but I don't see how Baphomet could come from another Arabic word when during that time period it was assumed that it was a linguistic misunderstanding of the name Muhammad. So it can't be both things at the same time, right? It can only be one or the other. It either came from that or it came from a potential linguistic misunderstanding of the name Muhammad. So, but it would definitely be a conversation worth having, right? So, I mean, in my opinion, when it comes to things of this plane, of this world, it can't be two things at the same time, right? The cause of something or the root of something can't be from, 2 points. But, that, works a little bit better, right? So for me, the way that I do things is I have the unholy trinity, and the unholy trinity, which I use the term unholy trinity honestly just as a mockery of Christianity and their holy trinity. So it is, combative in some ways and a jest in others. But for me, the unholy trinity is Baphomet as the apex, and then Lucifer and Lilith, which kind of fall down, because Baphomet is the masculine and the feminine. Baphomet is, the duality of all things that exist in the universe. Right, the order and the chaos, simultaneously existing at one time, and then those aspects are separated and kind of filtered through and down through Lucifer and Lilith. So that is through my research, through my rituals, through my gnosis and understanding, the deeper and deeper that I go, is what has occurred to me as being the logical place. And Lilith being considered the mother of all demons, everything else kind of falls under that foot, right? So Baphomet essentially being kind of like the idea of the balance of creation, and then Lucifer and Lilith kind of being the parents of all demonic entities that kind of exist underneath that. Again, that's my understanding of what I've come to to work with and to understand. It isn't to lessen the power or the ability of any other demonic entity, but it's merely just kind of like the hierarchy, so to speak, right? right? Baphomet is one of those more mysterious kind of entities because when you really begin to dig and work with Baphomet, you can feel Baphomet. You know Baphomet's there. But then you have to take yourself out of the equation and you have to kind of sit there and you have to think, do I want to accept that this idea of this thing just being, you know, a linguistic misunderstanding, or is there more to it? And then as you begin to work and as you begin to open, you begin to realize that that's the point, right? Because most people are going to turn away the moment that they hear that, like, okay, well, then this isn't an actual thing, so I'm just going to turn away and ignore it, right? And only those that are actually wanting and willing to put the work in, the time, the effort to connect and build a relationship with Baphomet are the ones that Baphomet wants to work with, or that Baphomet is open to working with. Because you've gone beyond, you know, that initial spark of, you know, this isn't a thing, and trying to explain it away, right? That you open yourself to saying, okay, let's see where this goes. Let's see what this leads to. I feel that there's something there. And then that initial connection that you have, that is the initial connection that you want to build off of. Because that is the reach out, that is the touch, that is the enlightenment, that is the gnosis, that is the growth, right? That you feel that there's something there. Because if you don't feel that there's something there, then there's no point in trying. But if you do feel that there's something there, then most definitely you should try. You should try to reach out, right? Everything that I've grown into the left-hand path has come from Baphomet. My work with Lucifer, my work with Lilith, my work with Paimon. You know, all of these things have come from my initial workings with Baphomet, right? And each aspect, each demonic entity that you work with is a deeper understanding of Baphomet, right? It's not to say that Baphomet is a ruler or a king. That's not the terminology that I would use, right? But Baphomet, I would say, is most definitely the encompassing umbrella of all the infernals. Exactly. Never ask a linguistic misunderstanding to unleash a hurricane of balance upon your life. Exactly. You know, so my work with Baphomet has brought me to a place of undeniable balance. And to reach that balance, I mean, many things had to be destroyed and ripped apart and taken away from me. You know, but the moment that I actually started to open up and started really working with Baphomet, like, I began to notice, you know, things that I thought that I couldn't live without just falling to the wayside. Something happening that, you know, that was unexplicable. They, like, this person would never do this thing, and then they did it, and I would cut that person off, you know, or something like that. And you know, the more and more I kind of moved down that path, the more and more I began to realize that these things were being ripped away from me because they were holding me back. They were stopping me from, you know, reaching that pinnacle, that point of, you know, better understanding, that point of gnosis, right? So Father of Understanding, I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. I mean, that, you know, does make perfect sense, right? Because within the balance that Baphomet provides, you most definitely are going to, you know, gain understanding of yourself and the things around you. So, I mean, I wouldn't deny it. I mean, like I said, I would just have to reach out to Michael and kind of ask, you know, where he got that from and stuff like that, because I'd want to know, like, the source, right? So, I mean, yeah, Michael Ford's a friend of the channel, so, yeah, I met him through Christoph Bathory, the singer of Dawn of Ashes. So, because, I mean, Michael is Christoph's mentor, so... you know, I got to connect there, and then we started talking, and you know, there's also, Michael is going to be writing the introduction to my book. I mean, he offered it quite some time ago, and I accepted. So, but the book's not done yet. But he's going to be writing the introduction to the Book of Baphomet, Conversations with the Horned Ones. He's going to be writing the introduction for that. Hey, I mean, that works, right? If you getting elevated helps you connect, then, rock on, go for it, connect away. I've nothing against that, Okay. So what I've been saying for this second line, right? The lo and behold, all this is fraud. When we look at Christianity, right? Christianity has stolen so much from paganism and occultism that this is one of the reasons why this newfound term Christian witch. And again, I feel like I shouldn't have to say this, but I'm going to say this because people like to jump to conclusions that when you say something that there's nothing else that's implied. It's only what you're saying. So like you have to say everything super clear, otherwise people's feelings get hurt. And if anyone that knows me, to those that I care about, I'm very careful not to hurt your feelings. I'm very careful to be, a way around you that, makes you feel accepted. But outside of that, another person's feelings are not my responsibility. I'm responsible for myself, and as should you be responsible for yourself. Nobody else should need to try to be responsible for what it is that you're feeling. But anyway, so the Christian witch concept baffles my mind because there's a lot of here where he mentioned that to me, it means here where he mentioned it. Was that here? Was that on the show when we interviewed him? I don't remember. If you're saying it's from here, I don't remember. It's been a while since he's been on the show. So the whole concept of I don't see. You'll have to reach out to me later. Yeah, because I'm not sure if you're talking about here, a video you've seen with him, a link that's on my channel. I'm not 100% certain. Because anything dealing with Michael Ford, there's been some time since we've had him on, so I don't remember. But this whole concept of the Christian witch, I don't want to make anyone feel attacked. But for me personally, I just cannot wrap my brain around the idea of being a Christian and a witch at the same time. I cannot wrap my head around the idea of accepting and being inside of a religion or a faith that openly discriminates against witchcraft, occultists, and any form of witchcraft that calls for the death and sacrifice of witches to appease their god. I cannot fathom or wrap my head around the idea of associating myself with Christianity in any positive light. Christians are a completely different story. There are good Christians. There are ones that, live their life in peace, and others live their life in peace regardless of, belief, and understand that a person's spiritual belief is not the only thing that there is to them or about them. But the whole idea of the Christian witch, it irritates me because of this very thing. Lo and behold, all this is fraud. Christianity is fraudulent. Christianity, Catholicism, of its basis is fraudulent. You sent me a link to the video. Okay. Yeah, I don't see it in the chat. You might want to hit, just send it to me in Discord or something like that, and I'll check it out. Yeah, because I can't see it here. So that's why this kind of thing ties into, lo and behold, all this is fraud. Because it doesn't make sense to me to connect yourself with something that wants to see you burn in hell. Right? And nothing anyone is going to do is going to change the scripture. The scripture is as the scripture is. Right? And there's nothing that's going to change that. You know, Exodus 22:18, thou shalt not permit a witch to live. You know, and people try to explain that away, but that is the most even if like thou shalt not permit evil to live or evil to exist, like if you go back, you know, to the earlier translations, even so, if you're a witch, you are considered evil. You are considered an element of the devil. I mean, if you look at it, just look at it back in the 1800s, right? You know, the classic imagery of, you know, a woman that would be considered a witch licking Satan's asshole. You know, the idea of what Christians think of us. And then there are people out there that want to, try to reclaim, you know, what Christianity stole by using Christianity. And then further pushing it into like validating its existence, validating the amount of people that have died in the name of the Abrahamic God. No, I'm sorry. I will allow people, I have no sway over someone believing what they believe. And if somebody wants to consider themselves a Christian witch, then so be it. But I will consistently and constantly be outspoken about the oxymoronic structure of that idea. And simply why I believe it just doesn't function. If it works for the person that's doing it, then fine, fuck it, do what you want to do. Right? There should be a link for the Discord somewhere. Give me a second. I will get you I'll get you a link. And I'll just drop it into the chat here. I should be able to drop and people. All right, so this is the link to the Discord right there. So you can join that way. Okay. Moving to number 3. Gather around me, O ye death defiant, and the earth itself shall be thine, to have and to hold. Now, this is an important idea here because the idea of Satan is very earth-based, right? And because of the fact that if we go biblically speaking, Satan was called the king and the god of this planet, of this plane of existence, the earth, right? The king of and god of the earth. So if that's true, if Satan is the king and the god of earth, right, then by working with Satan, by working inside of Satanism, or the left-hand path, working inside the infernal, the demonic, then we are assuring our success and our advancement on this plane, of existence. I do not believe in the idea of trying to live your entire life for the hope and possibility of a better place, for the hope and possibility of heaven, or the Summerland, or Valhalla, or what have you. I do not believe that trying to live your life solely for the purpose of something that might come after, that might come later, doesn't make any sense. Live your life for now. Live your life for today. Don't be a piece of shit person, which I think is a pretty easy thing for most people to do. I don't believe that a religion should sit there and tell you how you need to live your life. I think if you look around you and you kind of like open your eyes, you can see, you know, how you should be as a person, right? We have these ideals in our head, or these things that, you know, we can see, you know, immediately, you know, that kind of show us, okay, this is how we're supposed to interact inside of society, right? Thank you. I'll check it later. And if you need a religion to sit there and tell you how you need to interact inside of society, then I think you need to kind of, I think you need to double check like yourself, because you shouldn't need a religion or a faith to tell you how to live in society. You should just be able to kind of look around and say, okay, this is how people are acting with each other. This is, okay, maybe I should kind of, you know, do some of the same things, right? You know, help out where you can help out, you know, just be a decent human being. Don't judge people. Don't give people grief. Don't, you know, give people hell for nothing. You know, so I think, you know, simply being put, like if I were to ever create a tenet for the Order of Baphomet, I mean, the Order of Baphomet has its own tenets, but, you know, if I were, like, if I needed to tell you how to live your life, it comes down to a simple point. Don't be a piece of shit. And if you ask me what's a piece of shit, well, then think about everything that you would not want somebody to do to you. Don't do those things. If you're going to get pissed off if somebody does something to you, don't do it to somebody else. I don't think that there needs to be an extended or a long, you know, explanation of what those things are, what you should or shouldn't do. You know, if just, I mean, put yourself in that person's position. If them doing that to you or somebody else doing that to you is going to piss you off or, you know, throw you into a rage, then maybe you shouldn't be doing it to somebody else. If we can live that principle, because that falls into live and let live, just do your thing and let other people do their thing, I think life would be a lot better, and I think things would be a lot simpler if we kind of took that into understanding. Number 4, too long the dead hand has been permitted to sterilize living thought. Exactly. Do not treat others the way you would not like them to treat you. Exactly. Exactly. You know, and that might sound like a very Christian ideal because, I mean, they pushed it out there, but I mean, for fuck's sake, I mean, you know, let's just be logical. Like, if you don't want somebody to steal your shit, don't steal somebody's shit. Right? You know, you don't want somebody saying something to you, don't say it to somebody else. Unless, of course, they deserve it, right? Because there's lines. Right? It isn't like an absolute, right? Because I also do believe that, you know, if somebody harms you, don't turn the other cheek. Bash them in the fucking face. An eye, like this eye for an eye type shit, you know? You know, like defend yourself, right? Not vengeance, defense. There's a difference, right? If in the moment and somebody harms you, defend yourself. If you let that slide, then your opportunity for defense is over. After that point, it's just vengeance. And vengeance is bitter. Right? Unless, of course, there's an extended threat. Right? And then, of course, you know, include it into ritual. Including it, you know, hex the shit out of the fucking person. You know? If, you know, they are perceived to be an extended threat or other things could happen. Take legal action if you believe that you are physically threatened, you know, in an extended period of time. But, you know, I think that for me, these things are common sense, the things that I'm saying. For me, this shit is common sense. Maybe there is no common sense. Maybe that statement is true. Maybe there is no common sense and things do need to be explained. But for me, this is common sense. Having these markers. If in the moment somebody punches you in the face, fucking punch them back. If they punch you in the face and you walk away, you're done. Anything after that is vengeance. Vengeance is bitter. Vengeance helps no one. Right? If you cross paths with that person, they try to punch you again, bash them in the face. Defend yourself. Don't ever let people walk on top of you. Don't ever let people walk over you. If you want to take later action, press charges. Right? Follow the rule of law, which is going to help yourself. It's going to help you. So you don't end up in prison. So you don't end up in jail. So you don't ruin the life that you're building for yourself around you. because self-preservation is one of the biggest things with the left-hand path inside of Satanism, inside of all of this. Self-preservation is one of the biggest things. I like that. I like that. Common sense is a flower that doesn't grow in everyone's garden. I like that. That's a good one. That is a good one. I'm stealing that. I'm stealing that. But yeah, I mean, for me, that's self-preservation is the biggest thing. And if we understand that we live in a society that has laws and restrictions, follow yourself inside of those laws and restrictions, because not following yourself inside of those laws and those restrictions will be detrimental to your life, will be detrimental to your survival, will be detrimental to your success. Right? As followers of the left-hand path, we're not looking to break the law. We're not looking to, be considered dangerous people. That's not what the left-hand path is. It's personal accountability, personal responsibility. You are responsible for your actions. You are accountable for your actions. If you are defending yourself, then you are defending yourself. Vengeance is not defense. There's a difference. Right? And even if you don't take the opportunity to defend yourself in the moment, inside the rule of law, you still have an opportunity to defend yourself after the fact by pressing charges against the person. But if in the moment, return what they give to you tenfold, because it is in defense of yourself. It is your self-preservation. So, for me, that's common sense. Maybe I do need to say it. Maybe I do need to explain it. I don't know. But for me, I think that that's just kind of like, I just don't want to see people, trying to find, their high school bully and, go run up on him and, beat him with a baseball bat because, he made you feel like shit, back when you were 14. Don't do that. Don't do that. That's just a bad idea all around. And it's not going to help anyone, because that person might have gone through a lot of changes and might be a better person now, right? It might even be, to the point of apologizing to you for what they did. Whether you accept the apology, that's on you. You don't have to accept the apology. Forgiveness is not a rule that has to, you don't have to forgive people. But the problems that happen afterwards, you're going to prison, you're going to jail, right? For, assault with a deadly weapon or something like that, 5-10 years in prison. Everything you've been building in your life is just destroyed because of a bad choice, a bad decision. So always have your own preservation in mind. I think is the easiest way to do it. Always have your own preservation in mind. Because if you are okay, then those that you love and care about around you are okay. If you're financially stable, those that you love and that care about around you, you'll be able to take care of them because you are able to take care of yourself. If your mental health is sound and you're doing well, then you'll be able to help others more soundly, more fluidly, with their own psychological problems that they're having. If you are okay, if you are 100%, then those that you love and you care about around you will also reap the benefits of you being in a better position overall, which is why self-preservation is always important. You always need to come first, because if you are not okay, then how can you possibly hope to help or take care of anyone else around you if you're not okay? Care of the self always needs to come first. And for some, that might sound selfish, but there is no self-sacrifice for the benefit of another person that doesn't end up with you being destroyed. And then that's just abuse, in my opinion. Too long, right and wrong, good and evil have been inverted by false prophets. Now, what does this mean? This is one that I think requires explanation. Right and wrong, good and evil. So killing somebody, again, I've used this a lot, right? So killing somebody, we can all kind of generally in agree that killing somebody is wrong in outside of like, you know, the correct circumstances and situation. Whereas again, if we're talking about the United States, somebody breaks into your house, you're unaware of their intentions, you shoot that person. You know, castle law in many states, you know, you are protecting yourself, you're protecting your family, you did what was right, even though you ended another person's life. You protected yourself, right? You do not know what they're armed with, you don't know what they have to protect themselves or to attack you. So, you know, anything else outside of that would be kind of like a foolish endeavor to try to go and, you know, subdue, you know, somebody that's entering your home without knowing, you know, what, you know, they're bringing to the table, right, in this conflict. So ending that person's life is generally considered self-defense and is an acceptable way of ending another human's life if it isn't defense of your own. That being the extreme. What we're talking about here when we talk about good and evil, right and wrong, again, taking into consideration personal accountability, right? And if things that you do hurt other people, that's your responsibility, right? You know, like if you do something that hurts someone else, that's on you. But for a long time, the idea of right and wrong, right? You know, indulgence in all things mundane and of the flesh have always been considered a sin or wrong or evil. Any indulgence, right, of the flesh has always been considered something that has been, you know, frowned upon. Like, this is, you know, only, you know, for marriage and only for this and only for that. And, you know, that goes with food and that goes with anything, alcohol, drugs, all of these things. If you can take drugs and you can be a functional human being, then by the way, you know, by all means, do what you got to do, right? You know, if you bring yourself to the point where you are stuck on the street begging for money, you know, get that next hit, that's also on you. I don't think you're an evil person because of it. I don't think that the drugs are evil. You're the one making the choices. But I also don't think that you're an evil person for making those choices. Everybody's got their reasons and everybody's got shit that's going on. I'm not here to judge anybody, unlike the Christians, unlike the Catholics, right? Which would sit there and tell you that what you're doing is evil, that you are evil, that you are, you know, stuck, you know, in this, you know, trap, this devil trap, right? Is how they would put it. I don't believe that. I don't believe that. Not for one second. Everything's a choice. Choices have consequences. We tend to associate the word consequence to something negative, but consequences are either favorable or unfavorable. Right? There's no such thing as a bad choice. Only favorable or unfavorable consequences to those choices. It's that simple. That's the simple breakdown. Right? There are no bad decisions. There are only decisions that you make, and then the consequences of those decisions. That's not true. And where does that come from? Where did that come from? That's not true at all. And I just to give you an example, because I don't think that's I don't want to throw around the term homophobic, but I mean, that's pretty, like, I don't know where that came from, why that came. I mean, maybe you're talking about, you know, inside of Christianity, like being, you know, I guess, you know, most Catholics would consider homosexuality abomination. Maybe that's where you're coming off on that. It seems a little bit random. But the thing is I have a friend of mine that I was friends with for 2 years that I had no idea that he was gay until I saw him with his boyfriend. I had no idea. Never thought about it for a second. Never thought about it for a second. So to sit there and say and try to generalize and say you can tell who is homosexual by the sound of the voice, I don't think that is Can somebody in the chat help me out here? Because like, I'm trying here not to be rude with that. Can somebody want to help me out? Because sadly I don't have any mods in the chat right now, but somebody want to give their 2 cents? Am I wrong in feeling like that's not a good comment to be making? I mean, or am I just being like, I mean, I don't know. I feel like it was like too out of left field, and, you know, thank you. Yeah, like, I'm just like, and I don't like it. I don't like that comment. I don't like it. I'm just gonna be honest. I don't like that comment. I would, you know, I'm one of those people that I always say what I think, regardless of what other people think about like what I say, but I wouldn't even say that. You know what I mean? I would never say that. That's not a comment that I would ever make. I think he deleted it. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm sorry. I mean, like, you know, Highland, you've been in here, you know, a lot, and you're generally very good. That one comment, you know, I don't like it. I'm sorry. I don't think that that's a fair comment to be making, you know? Yeah, no, man. Like, you know, it had nothing to do with what we're talking about, and, you know, has completely taken me off track of what I've been saying. It's not fair to a lot of people that are probably in the chat. You know, it's probably going to make some people, if people see that comment, it's going to make them self-conscious about how they're speaking, and they shouldn't. You know, nobody should be self-conscious about how they speak. You know, I just, there's a lot wrong with that comment. There's just a lot wrong with that comment. Yeah, no, yeah, they generally don't. Yeah, you know. You know, I mean, I don't want to sit here and say Highland is, you know, a Christian, because I don't know. Yeah, I honestly have no idea, but, you know, Highland has generally been pretty good in the chats. You know, that's the first time Highland's ever come out with something that, I don't want to say it's triggered me, because I'm not triggered, but I just don't like it. I don't like that comment. But going back to the whole right, wrong, and good and evil. So when we talk about right and wrong and good and evil, we're not talking about the absolutes inside of society that we generally talk about, you know, where, you know, stealing and things like that. But I do believe that there's a lot of circumstance, because there's a meme, or a quote rather, I've seen around the internet a few times, that I generally, you know, agree with 100% as someone that used to be homeless twice in my life. That if you see somebody stealing food, no, you didn't. It's a simple phrase, and I'm very much in agreement with that statement. You know, the way society is, the way the economy is, you know, I'm sorry, but there are just sometimes people just can't afford just simple things to survive. And so if you see somebody stealing food, you didn't see anything. Just look the other way. I mean, shit, I remember a few years ago, I was in a Walmart in Laredo, and I came face to face with this dude, like 5'5", some shit like that, you know, looked like he's been having a rough time, you know, shoving some socks into his pants. You know, I was just like, you know what, dude, I didn't see anything. I didn't see nothing. You know, maybe those socks were the difference of him being able to actually go to work and do a decent job at his job, you know, the next day. You know, or maybe they were for his kid. You know, I'm not fucking NC size or anything like that, right? Maybe they were for his kid. Maybe his kid didn't have socks to go to school. I didn't see shit. I didn't see nothing. You know, so Now, I mean, there's certain things, you know, and it's in my opinion, it's a victimless crime. You know, you're taking from a corporation that already has every piece of merchandise insured. I didn't see shit. You know, and there's lines to that as well, but we're not going to get into it because that could too easily become political, and this is an apolitical show, so we're not going to talk about that aspect of it. But no creed must be accepted upon authority of a divine nature. Religions must be put to the question. No moral dogma must be taken for granted. No standard of measurement defied. There is nothing inherently sacred about moral codes. Like the wooden idols of long ago, they are the work of human hands, and what man has made, man can destroy. So inside of this, right, inside of this right here, this is a very good piece, right? Is morality should not be defined, or what is acceptable should not be defined through religion or the divine, because of man's hands involved inside of this. It is weak to corruption and to be used to take advantage of those that follow. Exactly. You are your own highest authority at the end of the day. And again, this goes back to there are no bad choices or good choices. There are only consequences that are favorable and unfavorable. Right? Having the foresight to understand whether or not the consequence that you are going to suffer is going to be favorable or unfavorable is a good ability to have, and something that should be honed. Right? We should think about our actions before we commit to them. Right? We should take into consideration all the possibilities of what's going to happen. Right? You know, who is it going to affect? Is it going to affect them in a way that I want it to affect them? Right? Again, it's not a bad choice, it's just a choice, but that choice has consequences, favorable or unfavorable. We have to work on having the foresight of knowing whether or not the consequences that are going to happen are going to be favorable or unfavorable to us. It's that simple. Right? So we reach a gray area when we come into this, because obviously morality is subjective. Right? There is no absolute morality. What is considered morally acceptable to some may be considered immoral to others. You know, I would like to draw a line in the sand and say that there are quite a few absolutes. Like, if any of your choices remove the choice from someone else, that is a choice that you should not be making. Because no one should not have the choice in a matter. So no choice you make should remove the choices from someone else. And I think that covers a lot of things, right? That you can break down in your own mind. Right? No choice you make should remove the choices of others. Should stop someone from being able to make a choice. And that, in my opinion, should be the law of the land. Make your choices, live with your consequences, and be studious to them. But just make sure that no choice you make removes the ability of another to make their own choice. It's that simple, right? I think that that is a simple, mutual human respect. So, we will end today on the Book of Satan, Part 2, Line 6. I thank you all for coming. This has been an interesting conversation. Highland, if you're still in here, please understand, I'm not saying that what you said was, it was meant to be taken a wrong way. I hope it doesn't affect your attendance. I do like having you here. You've been very respectful in the chat up until now. And I don't even want to say that you've been disrespectful, but I think maybe there's context to the comment that maybe you probably should have added a little bit more context to it. We just need to be careful about those things because, again, I don't want to be creating a situation where there are people in the chat that are now becoming self-conscious about something about themselves that they shouldn't be thinking about, right? Because of a comment that we made. So, thank you all for being here. I greatly appreciate it. And again, as in the beginning, hail Satan, hail Lilith, hail Lucifer, hail Paimon, hail Baphomet, hail thyself. We reject the Trinity. We reject the baptism of John. We reject the baptism of the Spirit. Thank you all. And as always, hail thyself. We'll see you next week. Goodbye.